On a lively night in London, a circus performance begins. Within this world lives a man known only as the Hunchback. For him, the circus is not just a way to survive, it is the only place where his fragile hope for life remains. Most members of the troupe treat each other like family, but the Hunchback is different. He exists merely as a clown, mocked and abused for entertainment. Every night, his body becomes a tool for laughter and cruelty. He never resents the humiliation. Survival is all that matters to him, especially since he has never seen the world beyond the circus walls. Hidden beneath his physical deformity lies a brilliant mind. The Hunchback possesses extraordinary knowledge of medicine with a deep passion for anatomy. In secret, he studies medical books and conducts his own research. From this quiet obsession, a new chapter of his life slowly begins. That night, excitement peaks during the daring performance of Lorelei, the beautiful acrobat the Hunchback secretly loves. Suddenly, the rope snaps and Lorelei falls from a great height before the shocked audience. The Hunchback rushes to her aid, joined by a man named Victor. By quickly tearing her clothing to examine her condition, they realize her ribs are damaged and restricting her breathing. Using the Hunchback's medical knowledge and Victor's pocket watch as an improvised tool, they perform emergency treatment more effective than that of a trained doctor. Instead of gratitude, the circus owner feels humiliated. Enraged, he blames everything on the Hunchback. His medical notes are burned and he is brutally locked inside an iron cage. Unexpectedly, Victor discovers the remaining fragments of the notes and immediately recognizes the Hunchback's genius. He returns to the circus and uses a magnet to unlock the cage. Before they can escape, Nebby discovers the plan, triggering a tense chase. Cornered and nearly shot, Victor cleverly creates a blinding reflection using mirrors, causing the pursuers to turn on one another. Thanks to this quick thinking, they escape through the underground sewer system. Back at Victor's home, he treats the Hunchback and discovers the truth: the hump is not a birth defect, but an abscess that has grown unnoticed for 18 years. After draining the infection and adjusting his spine, Victor fits in with a supportive brace. For the first time in his life, the Hunchback stands upright, though imperfectly. Before leaving, Victor tells him to bathe and gives him a new name. After cleaning up, his appearance transforms completely from a pitiful outcast into a dignified man. The next day, Nebby reports to the police, falsely accusing Igor of stealing circus funds and causing a riot that led to a worker's death. The case is taken over by a strict and feared inspector. Though unable to find Igor, the police discover Victor's woven bag and a portrait of Igor, prompting the inspector to issue a warrant for the Hunchback's arrest. The following morning, Igor finds a note from Victor, explaining that he has gone to the university and will return late that night. Victor also leaves Igor some money for daily expenses. Knowing Victor was not home, Igor decided to visit the woman he loved, who was still being treated in the hospital. Unfortunately, Lorelei had not yet regained consciousness. To ensure her condition remained stable, Igor used the rest of his money to ask the nurse to apply a specific ointment he recommended. Before leaving, he asked the nurse to tell Lorelei that one day, he would return to see her again. On his way home, Igor was horrified to find wanted posters plastered across the city walls. He froze as he realized the face on them was his own, labeled with accusations of murder. Panic overwhelmed him, and he lost his balance, slamming his head into a street lamp. Meanwhile, at the police station, a priest began sensing that something was wrong. He suspected the circus incident the previous night was connected to an illegal transaction. The inspector shared this suspicion, believing the person who helped Igor escape was also behind the crime, especially after discovering a fragment of a lion's paw inside a bag found at the scene. That evening, Igor sat in despair after reading the posters branding him a killer. Victor tried to reassure him, explaining that the police were only hunting an unnamed Hunchback. That person no longer existed. What remained was a brilliant man, far removed from the image of a circus clown. During dinner, Igor finally gathered the courage to ask why Victor had been at the circus, and why he chose to save him. Victor calmly replied that he had been searching for animal remains for research. As for rescuing Igor, it was not out of pity, but because he recognized Igor's vast potential and deep understanding of anatomy. To clarify his intentions, Victor led Igor into the laboratory. There he revealed his latest experiment to human eyeballs preserved in a special solution. For 3 months, Victor explained his theory that death was not final and that lifeless tissue could be revived. Without hesitation, he activated a device of his own design, sending an electric current into the eyes. Igor was stunned as the eyes began to move and blink. However, upon closer inspection, he noticed the neural connections were incorrect, causing the eyes to move out of sync. Instead of disappointment, Victor was pleased. Igor's insight only confirmed his extraordinary abilities and his value to future experiments. From that moment on, Victor granted Igor full access to every scientific book in the laboratory, and even provided him with a private room for his own experiments. To Igor, this was a rare privilege. At last he could fully pursue his fascination with anatomy. Day after day, Victor brought various human and animal body parts from downstairs for Igor to study. Absorbed in his work, Igor never questioned their origin. With intense focus, he attempted to repair and reconstruct damaged nervous systems. Meanwhile, Victor continued his secret work below, forbidding Igor from asking any questions about it. One day, Victor invited Igor to attend a family gathering. To Igor's shock, he saw the woman he loved there. At first he hesitated, afraid to approach. Unexpectedly, Lorelei stepped forward herself, stunned to realize that the man before her was the one who had saved her life. An emotional moment unfolded as they spoke warmly, sharing stories after so long apart. Soon after, Victor approached and invited them both to join him for dinner. During dinner, Victor began sharing his thoughts about the research he was pursuing, an ambitious attempt to resurrect what was already dead. Lorelei, unfamiliar with science, expressed her doubts. She believed such ideas went against the laws of nature, insisting that what had died should be allowed to rest in peace. Victor, driven by unwavering conviction, continued explaining his theory. Igor tried to calm the situation, gently persuading Lorelei that everything Victor did was meant to advance science. Though still unconvinced, Lorelei ultimately chose to hide her doubts. After the gathering ended, Victor immediately led Igor down into the hidden basement he had kept secret for so long. As the massive laboratory doors opened, Igor was stunned by the vast underground space filled with strange and unfamiliar machines. Curiosity mixed with dread as Victor finally revealed the truth. All the body parts Igor had helped repair were not experiments in isolation. Victor had been assembling them into a single creature. When the body was complete, Victor moved on to the next phase, channeling high-voltage electricity to bring the being. Named Gordon, the creature began to breathe and move, if only briefly, unable to fully control its body. To Victor, this is the dawn of a monumental breakthrough. He officially declared Igor his research partner and announced that the following day, they would present this discovery at the university. Unbeknownst to Victor, Igor secretly sent a letter inviting Lorelei to attend the presentation. The long-awaited moment finally arrived. Standing proudly before professors and students, Victor proclaimed that death was no longer something to fear. With the advancement of science, he claimed death could be transformed into a new form of life. He activated the electrical device and sent current surging through Gordon's body. Nothing happened. The corpse merely oozed foul, decaying fluids. Disgusted and disappointed, most of the audience quickly left. Only one man and Lorelei remained. Refusing to accept failure, Victor increased the power to its maximum. Seconds later, a miracle occurred. Gordon came back to life, rising with labored breaths as its body trembled violently. But the triumph was short-lived. The creature soon became feral and uncontrollable, attacking everything around it. Panic erupted. Victor and Igor fought desperately to restrain the monster, narrowly avoiding disaster. Through quick thinking and sheer effort, they finally subdued Gordon, returning him to a lifeless state. After the demonstration, a wealthy aristocrat approached Victor and offered full financial backing for future experiments. With unlimited resources promised, Victor's ambition burned hotter than ever. This time, he resolved to go even further by experimenting on a living human being. Igor was deeply disturbed by this plan and openly opposed it. He could no longer ignore the danger. This is no longer about animals or theory, it involved human lives. Victor refused to listen. Enraged, he accused Igor of standing in the way of scientific progress. A few days later, the inspector arrived at Victor's home with an assistant. During the visit, the inspector quietly realized that Igor was the former hunchback from the circus. He said nothing about it, instead questioning Victor about the chaos that had occurred at the university. Unwilling to expose his secrets, Victor calmly claimed he had only been studying the intelligence of a chimpanzee. The answer clearly failed to satisfy the inspector. The inspector continued voicing his suspicions, suggesting that Victor's research was connected to the theft of animal body parts. 6 months earlier, with a firm tone, he demanded that Victor hand over all research notes from that period. Feeling deeply insulted by what he considered baseless accusations, Victor finally lost his patience and forced them out of his home. Before leaving, the inspector warned that he would return with a search warrant. The next day, as Victor was sketching anatomical diagrams in preparation for his next experiment, his father suddenly appeared. Furious after receiving a message from the university, he accused Victor of neglecting his studies and risking expulsion. Victor tried to explain that he was working on a groundbreaking project that could bring honor to their family, but his father remained unconvinced. To him, Victor was wasting his education, consumed by a dangerous obsession. After his father left, Victor sat in silence, overwhelmed by the chaos surrounding his life. Seeing this, Igor tried to comfort him by shifting the conversation to technical matters, particularly the immense power needed to revive a human body. After long discussion, they reached a single conclusion: the only force strong enough was lightning. They also realized their current equipment could not withstand such energy. Igor proposed modifying the artificial body with 2 hearts and 2 lungs to stabilize the electrical current from a lightning strike. Elsewhere, the inspector grew increasingly frustrated after failing to secure a search warrant. The following day, Igor asked permission to attend a party hosted by Lorelei, and Victor agreed. But when Igor returned, he was horrified to find the inspector and police surrounding Victor's house. They were unable to enter, as the doors were locked tightly from within. Inside the laboratory, panic set in. Igor urged Victor to flee before everything collapsed. But just as they prepared to escape, Igor froze in shock. Inside a glass chamber lay a frozen corpse, missing its eyes. Before he could ask anything, the inspector burst in, gun raised. Cornered, Victor claimed the body was not a murder victim, but a close friend who had died from an overdose. He insisted that every body part he used came from the dead, not from crime. The inspector refused to believe him, and a violent struggle erupted. Victor fought back desperately, overpowering the inspector and severing his hand. Using the underground tunnels, Victor and Igor escaped and fled to their investor's home. There, Finnegan urged them to leave London immediately. He offered them refuge at his family's estate in Scotland, a secluded castle where they could continue their work without limits. Igor firmly refused. He warned Victor to stop before everything became irreversible. But Victor, blinded by obsession, erupted in rage and walked away from him. Realizing their paths had fully diverged, Finnegan decided Igor was now a liability. He ordered his men to kidnap Igor and throw him into a river to drown. At the last possible moment, Igor freed his bound leg and surfaced, gasping for air just before death claimed him. After narrowly escaping death, Igor wakes up in a room with Lorelei by his side. His eyes fall on the pocket watch Victor once gave him, triggering a memory. Victor had once spoken of getting lost in a snow-covered forest with his younger brother. The child never survived, and that guilt has haunted Victor ever since. Igor then notices an engraved name inside the pocket watch. At that moment, he realizes the truth: the preserved body was Victor's younger brother. Understanding this, Igor decides to return and find Victor. Lorelei, who saved his life and nursed him back to health, urges him to rest until he fully recovers. Igor refuses. He feels indebted to Victor and cannot abandon him to face danger alone. In the end, Lorelei agrees and they travel together to Scotland. Along the way, the inspector suddenly reappears and attempts to block their path. Igor reacts just in time, diverting onto another route. After a long and exhausting journey, he finally arrives and is horrified to see that Victor's experiment has reached its final stage. Fearing it has gone too far, Igor rushes down to stop him. He begs Victor to reconsider, warning that the experiment is dangerous and that Finnegan may betray him, just as he once did to Igor. But Victor refuses to listen. He declares that he will bring his brother back to life. Following Victor's command, the massive body is slowly raised into position. As lightning strikes and electricity surges through the system, the body begins to tremble. Moments later, it takes a breath and moves its arm. Everyone stands frozen in shock, but the miracle is short-lived. A second massive lightning strike crashes down, causing the creature to collapse and crush Finnegan to death. As Victor struggles to regain control, the inspector arrives. He screams that Victor has defied God and will face divine punishment. Victor only laughs. He does not believe in God, he believes in his creation. At that moment, the creature rises and approaches him. Overwhelmed with emotion, Victor tries to embrace it only to realize it has no feelings at all. Sensing danger, the inspector opens fire. Instead of stopping it, the gunshots drive the monster into a frenzy, and it kills the inspector with a single blow. With no other choice, Igor and Victor fight together against the creature Victor created. Igor manages to stab its heart, but he forgets it has two hearts. In an instant, Igor is struck down and loses consciousness. Victor stands alone, using the last of his strength. He attacks once more and pierces the second heart. The massive body finally collapses. When Igor awakens, Victor is gone. His fear eases slightly when Lorelei appears, holding a letter Victor left behind. In it, Victor writes that he is left to continue perfecting his work elsewhere.